Welcome to Memorable Marketing by Media Group. On today's episode, we have Niki Harrold. Niki has a wealth of experience in a variety of industries, mostly doing online, social, looking at data, and now she's a marketing director as well. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. I hope you do too.
All right then, no more socks with sandals. You kind of tailor the story that comes out of your data to the audience that you're presenting it to.
Let's talk about what you did at ECCO Shoes.
Oh yeah, okay. So quick background on the company as well. So ECCO Shoes is a family-owned Danish company. They have headquarters both in Denmark and here in the Netherlands. And I got hired. So shortly after, obviously, my tenure in America, I moved back to Europe. And I joined ECCO in 2020. And I was there for their marketing effectiveness manager role. That was really well aligned with my then studies. I went to do my master's degree, and I wanted to focus on marketing analytics specifically, because that's, I think, one of the biggest downfalls I still see today is most companies kind of measure, maybe don't measure at all.
Or measure the wrong thing.
So I think it's really important to kind of help companies get to terms with both the cleanliness of their data, the access to their data, and then what to do once they have access to their data and how to implement that into their marketing thinking and strategy. And so ECCO was a great location or a great job for me to kind of take what I have been in my career doing, but also studying at the time, and really kind of implementing it, this center of excellence methodology. So it's a footwear company, Main Street shoe store. And so you will find them in, I think, 99 countries. So it's a really big company. They have a centralized and a decentralized system at the same time, which is a bit complex, but it very much talks to the whole need to control the brand, just like what you described earlier. So it doesn't just apply to banking and financial services. It applies in retail industries as well. So we had this central team. We called it a center of excellence. It basically just meant that the teams centrally located in the Danish and Amsterdam head office were really focusing on creating the structure, right, of the other teams, the in-market teams, to succeed. So my job here was to create kind of a structure for the data, specifically marketing spend data, and to roll it out first to the 6 core markets that would represent the strongest brand connectedness. And we worked with those 6 markets. It included Canada, US, Singapore, Japan, Australia, and there's one more market, and I will have to come up with it in a few minutes.
Germany.
No, Germany was part of the EMEA marketing team, and they were run within a larger organization. So they were slightly more removed from the 6 core markets, a big market, but a bit more independent. But so you took the new infrastructure and you implemented it into the 6 core markets, that were most aligned with the head office, proved out the concept, right? And then with the success, once you refined it and got all the little nuances figured out, then you introduced it to the other, 93 markets, and you rolled out bit by bit the adjusted version of that kind of solution. So this is exactly what I was doing there. I came aboard with, in the middle of a brand change, actually. And so it was really important to capture the data around sentiment changing with the brand changing.
Maybe, Niki, you could explain a little bit what that brand change was about.
Oh, okay. So this is a bit difficult because I wasn't there for a long time before the brand change came to be. But I would say the brand is a traditional, or was looked upon as a more traditional shoewear, often purchased by men and women, either very active in sports like golfing, where a nice, good, supple leather shoe meant a lot, right? Like it was really important to the experience you had with your exercise. Or it was a slightly older generation, and probably 50 up, that has known the brand for a really long time. with the new style of shoes that we were bringing to the market, we really needed to adjust kind of how the brand is being perceived in the market and reach that younger generation as well that had that disposable income to spend on better quality leather shoes while also staying trendy. And so that kind of shift had to be translated into the brand visuals, the language, the copy, kind of just that feeling, right? The feeling that you got from the advertisement that it really kind of spoke a younger language. And so that was the transition that we went through in late 2020. So in the early 2020 months, I spent a lot of time building the data infrastructure for marketing spend, capturing, analyzing, creating benchmarks, right? To make sure, okay, this is the industry benchmark for the fashion retail industry, but what is our own benchmark by country for social media advertising, for print advertising, for out-of-home advertising, like you name it, right? And then you start measuring the campaigns, the quarterly achievements, the annual achievements towards your benchmarks, and you keep updating it. Now then came the new brand, and then with the brand rollout, you also had to start thinking about sentiment analysis, right? And making sure that the new audience you went after actually liked it, or what they didn't like. You captured specific keywords and phrases that you could hone into. It's like, okay, we are on the right track, but maybe don't do this, but do that. So those were kind of really important elements. And some stuff stayed as an activity within the Center of Excellence, and some more like campaign-based reporting was rolled out into the hands of the local marketers in market.
And so the data that you were gathering, I suppose there was both qualitative and quantitative data there. Maybe you can talk a bit about how you gathered this data, research, specific tools, requiring marketing agencies to deliver specific types of data.
We did not have marketing agencies, so I can tell you that already. There was a little bit of everything, right? So definitely we had a social media listening platform that helped with some of the more anecdotal sentiment analysis. We did have a lot of quantitative data that was fed into I'm not going to use brand names because I don't want to steer anybody into a certain, enterprise or product range, but into a database where you could then, with the help of our data scientists, really kind of analyze the influences of the different spendings and the different kind of campaign styles that were rolled out. But we also used more, because not everybody is going to have a data scientist, right? Not everybody is going to have the ability to actually run, Python language codes to make sure that they get certain results. Well, should they though? I think, I feel like there is a level 1, level 2, level endless of, competency there when it comes to analytics. And I think most people could do a lot already by connecting things like their Google Analytics data set with their, say, Meta data set or their social media data set in general, right? And you can flow all of that into a free tool like Google Studio. Or even G4 now has the ability to have those data sets rolling into it. And there's endless other kind of platforms that will collate all these data points for you, and then it's your job to just put it into, whether you want it in tables or charts or graphs, it's personal preference at that point, right? So there is a much more usable day-to-day solution for data analysis, and then there is the data scientist level analysis, and it's amazing if you can get this up here, but if you don't have the basics, this already has a ton of data. So we did do a lot of data from the basics, marketing spend, visits, traffic, website information. And then we also actually did quite a lot of manual kind of comment analysis as well to see specifically sentiment and negative and positive words associated with certain product lines or with certain imagery or certain, I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes dependent on the person you used in your imagery, color, race, sex.
And the store experience.
Yeah. And so it all makes a huge difference. And, sometimes you found insights such as people were really upset when the model had white socks on in a sandal, and it just went crazy viral. It's like, oh, that's the thing we are all focusing on. All right, then no more socks with sandals.
Well, to be honest, if I think about ECCO, I'm thinking about people with white socks and and sandals. So yeah, I think that touched the button there. Yeah, so that actually worked. All right. So you're gathering all of this data. You have a data scientist actually looking at the data, and the reason why I said before everyone should, of course, maybe not for smaller companies, you could do it yourself, is because I'm a firm believer in humans over robots. I think that like a lot of people, they get their Google Analytics, their Data Studio, their CRM system, or whatever else they're using. They get a bunch of disparate data sources, and together you just sort of have to close your eyes and throw a dart to figure out what data I'm actually going to use. Like you get totally overwhelmed because none of it adds up, and it's very difficult to actually, get a clear answer about where you need to go. And I think the solution for many people is like, let's just spend more money on building these systems so that we can get a clear answer of what we need to do. Whereas, in fact, I think most companies, most brands are better off finding people that understand the art of this and that dig deeper and that see themselves as a sort of commercial anthropologist rather than someone that looks at the conversion rate of a blue versus a green ad.
I mean, I could not agree more with you. Absolutely. I was wondering where you're going to go with this one, but no, it's exactly that. Like data scientists are highly specialized, highly skilled people in data, not in marketing and not in sales or not in customer support, right? So you need to have somebody who also has the understanding of what you're asking, right? And what is the customer feeling and what is their sentiment? There's a little bit of psychology in our jobs as marketers, right? And you need that intuition and experience to come along to look at the data and actually have the story of the data clarified, right? So I completely agree with you. Like it's not just a pure numbers game. It's also not just a pure gut instinct game, but you need to be able to merge those two together to have actual meaningful insight in an analysis. Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, humans plus robots, not just robots. Yeah.
Robots assisting humans. Let's stay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. So then, you have, as I started to say, you have all of this data in your systems. You have analysts looking at it. How do you actually use the data after that? Yeah.
So you kind of tailor the story that comes out of your data to the audience that you're presenting it to, right? Because when you're talking to the decision makers in the market where their marketing budget goes, right, they will need very different insights than what the CEO needs, right? Or the design agency who's doing the photo shoots for the next season's model lineup. So definitely you want to make sure that the information is a story, not just desperate data points that you're presenting. And even more
an insight.
Yeah. But I mean, going to the CEO, and I mean, there's plenty of CEOs and CFOs who want to have the dollar number and the euro number and the whatever, right? And the ROAS and whatever. But I think most of them want the story, right? Tell me what you're seeing in the data. What does that mean for my business? Often revenue-based. And then when you're talking to the local marketers, right, who are going to be building the next campaign, the next spending budget, the next whatever, then you're talking to them way more about, okay, if these are, here's your full funnel. In your funnel, in these stages, you're measuring XYZ KPIs. What is your benchmark? What are you trying to achieve? How are we going to kind of push things forward to make sure that you ever improve, right? But also experiment. So for me, it was really important. There was data that always remained in our hands as a center of excellence, specifically the C-suite conversations. But it was incredibly important to enable the in-market marketers with the infrastructure to say, here's what you're looking for before you plan your next campaign or during your campaign running, right? What are the trends and the benchmarks you're going to keep monitoring before you're making tweaks and adjustments or turning something off? So building the infrastructure and then explaining it so it becomes second nature to the marketer in the hot seat that makes the day-to-day decision. And we needed to let go, right? We were always available to them to say, hey, Niki, I need you to come back and validate something that I'm thinking, or we do a post-campaign analysis, or we do a QBR, a quarterly business review, right? That was part of our service. But as a marketer, you need to be self-sufficient because otherwise you're relying on somebody telling you how to do your job, and nobody really likes that.
It's like raising a child. It's like you give them the tools, but then they have to go out in the world, and like you're standing there like a proud mom.
I was very proud for all of the teams. Like it was, because it's hard, right? It's hard somebody coming in and telling you, you need to stop doing it this way, and here's the new system I've built for you, and this is going to make it better for you. And there's always a bell curve of adoption, right? And you just have to make sure that at the beginning when it's really hard, and at the end when you have the laggards that's really hard, you reserve your energy. And the ones in the middle, the early adopters and the main adopters, you just celebrate them, because it's so important that they also feel that they have succeeded.
Yeah, I think this is exactly why the structure that you've talked about, with a center of excellence in HQ and then a few markets that tend to be good testing markets, not just from a data perspective, but also just in terms of their willingness to work together.
The champions, yeah.
They're champions, yeah, and then to roll it out to the rest of the organization after that. I think that's something that's very common because of what you mentioned before. Thank you for listening or watching Memorable Marketing by Media Group. On this episode, we had Niki Harrold. I very much enjoyed our conversation. I hope you did too. For future episodes, feel free to subscribe and, of course, like the video. You can find our website for the agency at mediagroupww.com. Get in touch for any advice, strategy, marketing work. We'll be happy to help you.